Hello folks, you are welcome to this lecture. This lecture is on ACC 201D, Financial Reporting 1. Now back in our various senior high schools, we were introduced to financial accounting. And in financial accounting, the focus there is the computation of the figures, and some figures have already been calculated and given to us. But in this particular course, we will try and understand how those figures came about. And at the end of the day, you should be able to generate those figures from scratch and solving or preparing your financial statement. Now, you would agree with me that softwares are being developed for preparing financial statement, for recording financial transactions, and which is now reducing the need for physical accountants in an organizations. We want to look at the interpretations, the reasons behind those figures, and that is where the reporting aspects come in. What is the meaning behind the figure we have in the financial statement? So we shouldn't be interested in only the figures, but how we explain that to an individual, and that is what will become most relevant, even if those softwares are being used. Now, in this particular course, it's divided into 6 units, and each unit is having 6 sections. And so by the end of the course, we'll be looking at 36 sessions in all. Now let's move straight into Unit 1. Unit 1 talk about the regulatory and conceptual framework for financial reporting. And Session 1 of Unit 1 talk about the introduction to this regulatory and conceptual framework for financial reporting. What are our session objectives? At the end of the session, we hope that you should be able to explain the rationale for regulatory, conceptual, and ethical requirements of financial reporting. Why the need for the regulatory, conceptual, and ethical requirements of financial reporting. Now, you will agree also with me that without various laws, without various regulations and principles, anybody at all would use his or her judgment in preparing the financial statement, which then become very difficult to compare and use it to make decisions. And accounting information aims at enabling users to make informed economic decisions. And overriding quality or the characteristic of this accounting information is its usefulness for decision making. If the information is not useful, it's not relevant to the decision that you are going to take, then it will not be relevant. And for accounting information to be relevant, it must have this useful characteristic or the quality that will help the user to make an informed decision. Now, for this information to be useful for decision making, it must be backed by some regulatory, conceptual, and or ethical requirements. So it must be backed by some authority. It must be backed by some sort of power that users can rely on it. The information must be relevant to the decision being made so that it gives it some kind of backing to be relied upon in taking that particular decision. Now, this requirement for it to be backed by some regulatory, conceptual, and ethical framework are what constitute the regulatory, and a conceptual and ethical framework for financial reporting. So in general, we say the regulatory framework of financial reporting is the general term used to record or to describe the laws, the principles, rules, and regulations that govern the recording of business transactions and reporting of financial information. Accounting is about you recording a business transaction, and based on the business transaction you have recorded, you will process it and then report on it in the financial statement. Now, this framework was promulgated by the International Accounting Standard Board, which is the IASB, and this spells out the concept that underline the presentation of financial statement for external users. So we have to follow certain laid down procedures. We have to follow certain rules and regulations, and these are all spelled out in the conceptual framework, so that when you pick a financial statement, it will be meaningful, it will make sense. You can read financial statement from across different continents in the globe, because there is a framework that guides how informations are supposed to be presented. Now, as an accountant, you are also expected to comply with any ethical and professional ethics of any professional body you belong to, aside the conceptual and then the regulatory framework. So don't just rely on the conceptual framework, but as well as what the code of conduct, the ethical principles that guide your profession. You are supposed to go by that as well. So in this section, we were able to know the rationale behind the regulatory, the conceptual, or the ethical requirement, which now provides some kind of overriding or the backing for accounting information to be useful for decision making. So in the subsequent sections, we'll go deep into the framework and know what it contains. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.